I want to bring Abhishek Anand, who's been reporting from Jahangirpuri since violence broke out on Saturday. He's with me live now. Abhishek, a huge war of claims versus counterclaims, has been recorded. It's being seen off camera. It's being seen on camera as well. The investigation has peaked at this time with several people arrested. A short while ago, Sonu Chikna, the man who fired a gun during those violent incidents, has also been arrested. But is there any clarity, Abhishek, at this time over the genesis of the actual violence? A lot of claims versus counterclaims still going on. We'll get you Abhishek Anand in just a moment. There seems to be an audio problem there. But the last 15 days, ladies and gentlemen, have witnessed a spate of incidents of violence in the country. But what we are showing you right now about what has happened in Delhi is the first incident of violence in nearly 2 years. Our viewers will remember the horrifying Delhi riots of 2020. And now you're seeing the riots that are taking place in 2022. Thankfully, it wasn't an expanded incident. It was an isolated incident that happened only in Jahangirpuri. Thankfully, no casualties, no deaths, but it was a violent incident and the situation is still volatile. The problem is, what happened in Delhi was only the latest in what appears to be a daily stream of incidents. Across 15 days, across 7 states, including the national capital, stone pelting, arson, firing of weapons, hate-fueled communal divisions coming to the fore, politicians jumping in and making a big meal out of polarizing issues. The question we're asking here on India Today, while we bring out the facts and ask the questions, is there a pattern to what's going on? Are these isolated incidents, or is there a larger pattern with someone pulling the strings?
Violence, stone pelting and arson. Across states, unrest and disturbance in the last 15 days. Clashes reported during Hindu religious processions. It started on April the 2nd in Karoli after stones were allegedly pelted at a rally on the occasion of the Hindu New Year. Over 42 people were injured. 8 days later, on Ram Navami, violence erupted in Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Jharkhand and Bengal. Processions were allegedly pelted with stones, resulting in clashes between two religious communities. The situation rapidly spiraled out of control. Local shops and vehicles were torched. In Madhya Pradesh, fingers were pointed at the radical Islamist outfit, the Popular Front of India.
जिन लोगों ने शांतिपूर्वक रामनवमी के पर्व पर उस जुलूस पर पथराव किया, बहन बेटियों पर आक्रमण करने का प्रयास किया, लोगों ने आगजनी की योजनाबद्ध तरीके से, तो क्या दिग्विजय सिंह को कांग्रेस इनका समर्थन करती है?
The same evening, two groups of students clashed at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi, allegedly over serving non-vegetarian food in the hostel on Ram Navami. On the 16th of April, communal clashes broke out during a Hanuman Jayanti procession in northwest Delhi. Swords, pistols were brandished, stones were pelted as the rally neared a mosque.
जितने लोगों को अरेस्ट किया है, उसमें दोनों पक्ष के लोग हैं. जिन लोगों ने वहाँ पे हुड़दंग किया या कायदा अपने हाथ में लिया, वो किसी भी पक्ष के नहीं हो. हम तो उनको जो आरोपी के तौर पे ट्रीट करते हैं और उसी तरह की कानूनी कार्रवाई आगे करते हैं.
Hanuman Jayanti clashes were also reported from Hubli in Karnataka, Kurnool in Andhra Pradesh and Haridwar in Uttarakhand. The question is there a pattern to all of these clashes? How are rioters prepared with all these weapons? Are stones collected and hoarded? Is a flare-up always pre-planned? And how is it that they're happening all over the country? Is there a deliberate attempt to provoke? What's the intent? What's the objective? And why is India being divided? Bureau Report, India Today.
We don't know if these are isolated incidents. That's the question we're asking. But just take a look at how many places these incidents have been happening in. It all started in Karoli in Rajasthan a few days ago, earlier this month, when the Hindu New Year procession was allegedly targeted there. That's where it started. There was a great deal of attention paid there. Then you saw what happened in Khargone in Madhya Pradesh, where a Ram Navami procession was also pelted with stones that flared up to a large extent. A person, many people were grievously injured. Then you saw a Ram Navami rally that was targeted in Gujarat. That also became a pretty violent incident. From Gujarat, it appeared to spread. We don't know if these are all connected, but stones were pelted at a Ram Navami procession in Jharkhand. In at least 2 places in Jharkhand, you saw stone pelting taking place in Jharkhand. You also saw clashes during Ram Navami processions in West Bengal. That became the 5th state where pelting took place during a Ram Navami procession. Then there were clashes on Ram Navami finally in the national capital of Delhi. This was on the Jawaharlal Nehru University campus as well. This was over meat being served in the hostels during Ram Navami. So the number of incidents, we've just picked out just the most prominent ones, and it really shows you how it's happened in different parts of the country. It's not isolated to just one area. Of course, if you look at other parts of the country, there have been incidents of hijab and halal and azan. Those are in other parts of the country, but we've picked out just only the violent incidents that have taken place. Here are the big questions, meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, that we are asking as we wonder whether there is a national pattern going on. How are rioters always appearing to be prepared with weapons, whether it is swords or stones or pistols? How are they always prepared? Are these stones being collected and stored in a premeditated manner before any kind of flare-up? Are these flare-ups therefore pre-planned? I mean, this is almost a rhetorical question because it appears as soon as there is a flare-up, you can see those weapons coming out. Is there a deliberate attempt to disturb harmony? And once again, are all these incidents interconnected? Is there a larger pattern to what is going on? So that's the big question we're going to put to our panel here on Newstrack. Remember, hijab, halal, azan, Ram Navami processions, Hanuman Jayanti processions. The BJP says the Congress and the Popular Front of India are responsible. The Congress says the VHP, RSS, the Sangh Parivar is responsible. You've got the left that says the RSS and VHP are responsible. Everyone sees a conspiracy. There is not a single political formation in this country that does not see a national pattern. But the question is that true? Who is responsible? And who's pulling the strings that unites all of these incidents? What's the common thread that connects all of them? Joining me live on Newstrack this evening, Dr. Ajoy Kumar is national spokesperson of the Congress Party, Tom Badakan, spokesperson of the BJP, and Dr. Vikram Singh is former Director General of Police of Uttar Pradesh. Gentlemen, welcome. Very, very serious issue here on the table at this point of time. I'd like to start with the non-politician, Vikram Singh. Sir, it is difficult to ignore. It's difficult to ignore, as I'm sure you will agree, that there is a nearly daily, almost like, you can always expect that every single day this last month, there will be one communally charged incident or the other. And for the most part of this year, it has begun with politically charged issues like hijab, halal, azan. It has spilled over into Ram Navami and Hanuman Jayanti processions. In your view, are these all isolated, or is there some kind of divisive pattern going on, sir? Is there a common thread to all of them, in your view?
Good evening, Shiv, and my respected esteemed panelists. I would say from my experience, they are all closely intertwined. In the language of the intelligence department, there's something known as communal flashpoint. If the communal feelings are well under control, the communal threshold is always under control, and nothing can vitiate the atmosphere of trust and mutual trust. But when the communal flashpoint is low, as in the case today, because of rhetoric, because of extraneous consideration, because of irresponsible statements here and there, the communal flashpoint seems to be at an all-time low in the last 20 years. And therefore, even the smallest incident has the potential of triggering a full-scale communal riot. And when you have an action, there is a consequential reaction, and it has happened all over the country in every such situation that people prepare themselves for a worst case scenario. That is, unfortunately, stockpiling of brickbats, stockpiling of Molotov cocktails, doing what is not permissible within the ambit of law, taking out processions, defying the police, and coming with allegations and counter-allegations. This is all on a set pattern. Now the thing to do, Mr. Shiv, is again bring back the trust. Put the irresponsible people behind bars. Give exemplary punishment to those who started the fire and those who
Dr.
are
Singh,
fishing in troubled waters.
Not to interrupt you, sir, with the greatest of respect, I'll come to that solution part in the second part of this discussion. Let's just get our opening comments on the, on the premise of this discussion. Dr. Ajay Kumar, the Congress has pointed fingers at the BJP Sangh Parivar, but I'd like to hear you enunciate it, sir. Are you seeing a national pattern? Are we going too far in suggesting that there may be linkages between all these incidents happening? The BJP says it is the Popular Front of India, the pseudo-secular forces, the appeasement forces that are doing this to polarize. Your party blames the BJP, the Sangh Parivar, but my question to you is, are these all isolated incidents or are they linked?
No, Shiv, sorry, I think Mr. Vikram Singh put the points very well. Look, the incidences which are happening, the environment which is getting vitiated, has got considerable effect from the Prime Minister in terms of from the BJP and the government and the people in power right now and the RSS and everybody else, for the simple reason being, if you look at the rhetoric, whether it is chief ministers, whether it is silence of the Prime Minister, whether if you look at the speeches of the BJP and RSS camouflaged in whatever way you want to say it, it creates an environment. Now, whenever you create, and if you indulge me for a couple of seconds as a former police officer, whenever you create such flashpoints, the government and people in power created if you create flashpoints, there will be mischievous elements. And I rate whether it's PFI, again a mischievous, extremely mischievous element, who would be, fishing in troubled waters for sure. So there is no debate that there will be unsavory elements taking advantage of the situation. But you need to look at it. Look at that Udasin Muniji in Sitapur. You look at one of your journalists, so-called journalist colleagues of the TV channels who propagates hate even on passing the UPSC exam. You'll see the Dharam Sansad, which this one particular priest continues to do so much of hate. And you see the likes of the AIMM, the Akbaruddin Ovaisis and all that. So those, so they are, no, I'll just complete. So the issue is, I'll just take 30 seconds now. The fact is that the Prime Minister will tell Ukraine must stop and Russia must have peace. But there is nobody in this government who continuously calls it out because they're complicit. And if you look at what happened in Madhya Pradesh, you're bulldozing houses, you say you've done a great job. No law, tomorrow they'll bulldoze my house and your house. But if inefficiency was a barometer, they should bulldoze the DM and SP's house. No?
Okay. Let's get the counterpoint. Dr. Ajay Kumar, your point is made. Let's just get the counterpoint so we can spread this around. Tom Vadakan, two sharp points that have been made. A, that the threshold of reaction has been brought down to a very dangerous level because the atmosphere has been vitiated, says Vikram Singh, with communally charged comments by politicians. He didn't name any particular party. I am assuming, since he is independent, he means politicians of all hues. But the Congress says that it is the BJP that has made this entire situation possible and basically dog-whistled, if I may use that phrase, for communally charged incidents of this kind to happen so that polarization takes place. Tom Vadakan, your response. They're saying that all these incidents are linked and the BJP is responsible, is what Dr. Ajay Kumar says.
Dr. Ajay Kumar is a dear friend. He has a better understanding as a police officer. But today he's on the other side. So, there's nothing much I can speak on that issue. But let me tell you something. The fallout of this whole thing is a toolkit that is in full play. And I've said this, choreographed by the PFI. Now, how you want, there are mischievous element, Dr. Ajay was perfectly correct, but who's using them? Now, here is the other indicator. Dr. Ajay Kumar's president, former president, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, on a public domain, when he was releasing a book, you know what he said? He said, well, if somebody thrashes my sister or brother, I will take a knife from the kitchen, stab him, kill him. Now, for God's sake, has he become the investigator, the jury, and the executioner? If this is the kind of hate speech the great Gandhian with the surname of Gandhi goes around saying, now who is to blame for all this violence? He keeps saying that, well, we are with the Dalits, but when something happens to Dalits, he's nowhere around. He and his sister are missing in action. Now today, somewhere in Europe, the country is burning, no comments coming from him. He's talking about the COVID cases based on some international publication, which we have contradicted. Somebody has to be on the ground. There are people like Ajay who are brilliant people. They should be used, but no, they won't use him.
But Tom, you haven't answered the question that Dr. Ajay Kumar is saying. He's saying that it is the BJP that is complicit in this mood. It's not accidental. The Congress accuses the BJP of being complicit in engendering an atmosphere where such incidents are possible.
But why? We are just won and come out of elections. We are on a development mode. What do we gain out of this? Tell me some gain that is there. I mean, what is the advantage? There's nothing. Polarization has already been done. Polarization is the process that the Congress party is trying to bring in to avoid that ballot defeat that they're trying to come through the back door. Now, backdoor entry, Dr. Ajay, you know how it is. It's not acceptable by the people. Point here is, let's be very clear and candid. We have nothing to gain. If you think we have instigated this hate campaign, forget it. Look at the speakers. Sitaramaya was the person who released PFI accused when they burned up a police station in Karnataka.
Yeah.
Now there is another threat coming in on the Amarnath Yatra. They're saying that, well, you have it 75 days, we'll take care of you. Point here is, there's a pattern.
Yeah.
Shiv, you're right, there's a pattern, but who is drawing? And who are the mentors to this whole scheme?
Tom, point made. Let's get Dr. Ajay Kumar to respond to that. Dr. Ajay Kumar, the same way that you are seeing a BHP Sangh Parivar pattern in what's going on, the BJP has a blanket response on this. You know, we've had multiple debates on this where the BJP says every single one of these incidents is a kind of escalating pattern of the PFI weaponized by the Congress, whether it is Karnataka, whether it is the hijab issue, whether it is certain other issues, and polarization is what the Congress wants to use to try and claw its way back to relevance. Respond to that specific point, Dr. Ajay Kumar.
So Tom is a nice guy and a dear friend, but I don't know, this flights of fantasy of BJP people. The fact is that once they say that the Congress is not strong enough to do anything, and then the other end they think that we are going to create. First of all, let me put it very clear that we are against all communal forces, whether it is in the minority, whether it's represented by Islamic kind of fundamental anti-India forces and terrorist forces, and terrorist forces or right-wing forces who want to destroy the social fabric of the country. So we are against both. The second issue is, it's very rich when they keep pulling out names. I mean, all the major terrorists from Azhar, Mahmoud Azhar, and all these guys, Zargar, who were released during their time. So my terrorist, your terrorist is a ridiculous thing. But the important point is, I mean, can't anybody see this pattern? There's a Ram Navami procession in Kodarma. Children are abusing the mothers and fathers of a particular community. There are guys climbing on mosques and putting flags. You are going to a certain route, and the police has got adequate powers. I mean, if there's a miss to decide on the passage, on the route, to
you know,
de-weaponize the procession. One second.
I get what you're saying.
I know, Shiv, I'll tell you one second. You just need to give. Look, I used to be superintendent police of a district called Jamshedpur, which used to be highly communally sensitive, extremely communally sensitive. We had the Ram Navami and Muharram processions and all. And I'm not saying good or bad. It's the first chapter in the playbook of any self-respecting IPS officer or any police officer.
No, I also want to make an observation. I want to make an observation since you are also a police officer, sir. Dr. Vikram Singh, you know, it's not the first year that Ram Navami is being celebrated. We've seen Ram Navami being celebrated. We are seeing Ramzan being observed. You know, this year appears to specifically see, you know, this spate of flare-ups. You know, what is your sense of this, sir? You know, the larger picture, of course, is you've got the Gujarat elections coming, you've got the Karnataka elections coming. Both of those states are, you know, seen to have a polity where polarization plays a very important role in the electorate. Do you see a link between that, sir? That all of this is pointed towards elections? You know, it might sound cynical, but that's what polarization is usually pointed at.
Shiv, I'll come out with 3 quick points. Number one, I'm very disappointed by the performance of the administration and the police. The police are not supposed to be mute spectators to what is happening, allowing grass to grow underneath their feet. They're supposed to be proactive hunters and hunt down everybody, whosoever he may be, of the ruling party, the BJP, the Congress, the PFI. If the PFI is so insidious and so malicious, then why not ban them and put their cadres behind bars? Why has not a single preventive arrest been made? What surprises and shocks me, not a single preventive arrest made, not a single country-made weapon recovered, not a single preventive detention after the thing. This means hunt with the hound and run with the sow. These may be very high sound, these may be very cynical, and these may be very, I have no sarcasm, but as a professional ex-police officer, I would raise a loud question to the police leadership, why not? And then whether the leadership, it is Yati, you said I did not mention, now I'll tell you. Irrespective of the party affiliation, the color of the clothes, whether it is Yatishwaranand or whether the sadhu who said he will rape Muslim women, I take the strongest exception to anyone who is a loose cannon, whatever be the political outfit and whatever the political party trying to fish in troubled waters and indulging in vote bank politics. Let them all be put behind bars. Let us at least retain our sanity, the whole lot of us, and ensure that the constitution is supreme and not the manifesto of any political party. Now the backdrop of the election. There will always be some who will try to obey every dishonorable, illegal, immoral orders of the political masters. But by and large, the police and the administration are independent. But the very fact, the manner in which these incidents have unfolded goes to show that they have not been very professional and have not abided by the instructions in the internal security scheme. That is, my question is, please be true to your conscience and to the constitution. Ensure that it's total peace. Our political friends are there only to give you a guidance, not to tell you what to do and what not to do.
I'm going to let that be the last word because we're out of time. But thank you to all of you for joining me. There certainly appears to be a pattern, but we hope that state administrations and politicians will recognize that this is not something that is going to be sustainable for a country like ours. And we really hope, in an isolated sense, that justice is served and that a message is sent out that India needs to move beyond this impulse for polarization with each passing festival. Thank you very much, Dr. Ajay Kumar Tombadakan and Dr. Vikram Singh for being with me here. We had a conversation with Dipendra Pathak, Special Commissioner of Police of the Delhi Police, on the latest in this spate of communally charged incidents, the one that happened just last Saturday in Delhi's Jahangirpuri. Take a look.
जहांगीरपुरी मामले में एक बड़ी गिरफ्तारी हुई है। किसकी गिरफ्तारी हुई है, इसका क्या क्रिमिनल रिकॉर्ड सामने आ रहा है?
वो 2 दिनों से एक फोटोग्राफ और एक वीडियो जो वायरल हो रहा था, जिसमें एक ब्लू कुर्ता पहनकर एक शख्स गोली चला रहा है। इसकी सबसे पहले हमने इसको आइडेंटिफाई किया बेस्ड ऑन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक और ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस और लोगों से पूछताछ करके। उसके बाद आज हमारी नॉर्थ वेस्ट डिस्ट्रिक्ट की स्पेशल स्टाफ टीम और उसके साथ और भी कई टीम लगी हुई थी, हमने इसे पकड़ लिया है और इससे पूछताछ कर रहे हैं। इसका नाम सोनू शेख एलियास यूनुस एलियास इमाम है और बाकी जो और तमाम डिटेल हैं, ये किस तरह के केसेस में इन्वॉल्व रहा है और इसके क्या क्रियाकलाप हैं, कुल मिलाकर ये जो दंगे की घटना हुई है शनिवार के शाम में, उसका अब तक का सबसे दुर्दांत अपराधी के रूप में सामने ये आया है। ये एक बड़ी सफलता है नॉर्थ वेस्ट डिस्ट्रिक्ट की और इसको पकड़ के इसके आगे की पूछताछ हो रही है।
परमिशन को लेके बड़ा एक उहापोह सी स्थिति सामने आई। दिल्ली पुलिस ने कहा कि परमिशन कुछ की दी हुई थी, कुछ की नहीं दी हुई थी। तो ये क्लियर कर दीजिए किस जुलूस की परमिशन दी गई थी और किसकी नहीं दी गई थी।
देखिए, जहांगीरपुरी थाने के इलाके में चूंकि लोकलाइज्ड इलाका है और पिछले 2 वर्षों में चूंकि कोविड का प्रकरण था, उससे पहले भी जब कभी भी ये हनुमान जयंती के अवसर पर ये जो लोकल शोभा यात्राएं निकलती थी, तो कुल मिलाकर 16 तारीख को 3 शोभा यात्रा निकली थी, जिसमें 2 शोभा यात्रा को जो 11 बजे और 1 बजे का था उसको परमिशन मिली थी। वो 25 तारीख मार्च को और 31 मार्च को उनके एप्लीकेशंस आए थे। जो तीसरी शोभा यात्रा थी वो 1 दिन पहले शाम को उनका एप्लीकेशन आया था और इनको परमिशन नहीं मिल पाई थी।